Who will be the next head coach at Nebraska?
I think it will and should be Kansas's finest, Lance Leopold.
Okay, he's been a name talked about a lot. Who are some of the other candidates being mentioned right now for the head coaching position?
Yeah, right now it kind of seems like it's down to maybe 3 or 4 guys. Leopold, I think, is probably the early front runner. Matt Campbell at Iowa State seems like a very good fit. Bill O'Brien, Alabama offensive coordinator. I think this is definitely going to be his last season in Tuscaloosa. Georgia Tech probably makes a little bit more sense, but he has some long-term ties with Trev Alberts, Nebraska's athletics director. And then kind of the dark horse name 3 weeks ago, this guy wasn't exactly on a lot of radars. Matt Rule suddenly doesn't have a job. Another guy, much like Lance Leopold, a builder, an organizer, guy who has a lot of vision, is used to kind of taking over kind of a wheezing program. So those are probably the 4 biggest names right now, I think, to kind of keep an eye on for the Cornhuskers.
Currently, Mickey Joseph is serving as the interim head coach. Is there any chance that he could be retained and get the full-time head coaching job?
I do think there is, I don't think it's the longest of odds, but he's a guy that has a lot of backing from folks there. He obviously is an alum. He has really stabilized things. They've won a couple games with Joseph as the interim head coach. He's kept that recruiting class together. I think it's probably important for whoever takes that job, if it's not Mickey Joseph, to make sure that Mickey Joseph is on staff. But if he gets the Cornhuskers to a bowl game, which is not outlandish, still, it could be tough, but it's not outlandish. If he gets them to a bowl game, I think that's a big resume builder for him to say, hey, lose that interim tag and let me take this thing over and do it my way for a full season.
You mentioned some pretty interesting names in terms of candidates. What does a splash hire at Nebraska look like?
A guy who's just going to literally come in and take an HVAC to this wasteland and say, hey, I'm going to clean it up, but this is a program that has a lot of potential. I've made the case that Wisconsin's open too, and Jim Leonard seems like the heads-on guy to get that job. I think they should go after Lance Leopold because there's a ceiling that he could offer at a place like Nebraska where they have a war chest of NIL. Recruiting isn't what it used to be because of the transfer portal. So 1995, Nebraska could add 20 walk-ons, that should have been playing D1 somewhere else. 2015, you can't get recruits there because folks don't want to play, away from home. Well, it's not that case anymore. You can get good players to Nebraska now. So with the transfer portal, NIL, Nebraska doesn't need a splash. They need someone that's just going to come in there, clean it up, organize it, give it a little stability and identity. And you have something that could be, especially in the new look Big Ten, outside of Ohio State and Michigan, probably the most interesting job, not named USC and UCLA when they join the conference.
All right, we got a couple days left in October, and then we enter November, the final month of the football season. What's the timetable looking like for a hire at Nebraska?
Well, since, again, I think they're kind of playing out the season to see how it goes with Mickey Joseph. But like a lot of these jobs, because they have already made the move and they were one of the first on the market, they've had time to vet and interview a lot of guys. Lance Leopold's lost a couple games in a row at Kansas, but that's not going to detract the folks at Nebraska. Iowa State's had a 4-game losing streak where they keep losing 1-score games. But again, that's not going to ding Matt Campbell's candidacy. They're looking for the long-term plan. They're looking for that stability. And so I would think something close to Thanksgiving, around then so that they can kind of get that early head start on the early signing period, build that staff, and then head into the spring signing period with a little bit of momentum and kind of program juice.
All right, Jesse, always on the pulse of the coaching carousel. Thanks for joining us on the Inside Scoop. Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.